Hey everybody, it's Robert coming to you with another adventure into history, and I'm out here with Dan. And today we are visiting the location of and going to tell you the story of Vineville Terrace, the most haunted house in Talbot County, Georgia.
We're at the Ephesus Presbyterian Church Cemetery in Woodland in Talbot County, Georgia. The Ephesus Primitive Baptist Church used to be located near here, but it's long gone. The cemetery was here long before the church, well, long before the town of Woodland was ever created. We're in the northern part of Talbot County, close to what used to be known as Bellevue. That was a community that was pretty flourishing here back at the time this cemetery was established. But we're here today really to visit the grave of Mr. Jim Jones. Now Mr. Jones, it being this time of year, we always kind of like to do something a little Halloweenish, if you want to call it that. Mr. Jones built a house just south of Woodland on the old Alabama Road. And the house later became widely known as the Haunted House. Everybody called it the Haunted House. And the house is long gone, but of course, there's a lot of people that still remember it, and it's well documented in the history books. But a little bit about the background on Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones was born February the 25th, 1847, and I understand he was born in Ozark, Alabama. So he was not a native of Talbot County or of Georgia, but he moved to Talbot County, Georgia around 1870 after the Civil War. When he came to this county, it's my understanding that he did not have anything, that he came here just somehow he had met a member of the Hall family and he was dating her. Of course, her name was Amanda. Well, he was dating Amanda Hall, and her family had quite a bit. They had a lot of land and such. So he got a little piece of land of his own, and it's always been said that he worked with his two bare hands and built everything that he had. He built a plantation out of basically just raw land and forest. He, by the time the 1900s rolled around, he had built a cotton gin, a sawmill. He had a little factory down there that made all sorts of woodworking things like cabinets and stuff like that. They said he could build just about anything. He was very artistic, and they say that he was a self-educated man, that he had a vast library in his house. Well, it's pretty well documented that his house that he built around 1885 had a parlor, which his granddaughter, when she was interviewed for the Rockaway Talbot County books in 1971, I believe, she spoke about the pianos that he had. He had two pianos, a organ, and a accordion that he played himself. And he also owned a music box that stood on the floor. It was a floor model that stood about 6 or 7 feet tall, so I've been told. The Rockaway author, Mr. Bill Davison, actually visited the Jones house when he was a young man, and he went there with some friends, visiting with some of the descendants of Mr. Jones who lived there at the time. And he went there with friends from West Point, Georgia, and he spoke of seeing the frescoes on the walls in the house. Well, at some point there was a Frenchman that came through Talbot County, and that was how he paid his room and board, was he went around painting for people. And I actually saw the walls that he painted in the parlor for Mr. Jones, and all I can say is that they were artistic. They were very nice, but they were very strange. It just gave you a strange feeling. And It may be because the house was vacant when I saw them, and that coupled with the fact that the house had a lot of scary stories that went with it, I found the paintings to be kind of depressing myself. They were depressing, drab color, but I would imagine back in 1885 when they were painted, or 1886 or whatever the year it was, I would imagine that they were probably very nice at the time. It's my understanding that the Frenchman who painted those got sick and had to leave right in the middle of painting, and he didn't get to finish. So Mr. Jones took over, and the family used to just really relish in displaying and, you know, taking people on a tour of this room and trying to get them to find where the artist stopped and where Mr. Jones took up. And he could not tell. There's no way to tell anywhere. They knew, but they never would tell anyone. But somehow or another, my daddy was friends with some of the Martins who were descendants of Mr. Jones. And he had permission to go there at one time. And we went to this house. And I remember going in and seeing the frescoes on the parlor wall. And it was a very strange place. Especially the fact that when we went in, I mean, this place was miles from anybody. And we went in the back door because the front of the house was very high off the ground. There was no access to the front. So we went around back. Of course, back then, people didn't lock up anything out in the country. It was wide open, and there was even still furniture in the house. Nobody bothered anything. So we went in, and I remember my brother commented about a walking cane that was propped up against the wall by the back door when we went in. And we went through the house, went through the front, saw everything in the living room, came back, and when we came out, the walking cane was gone. And I've thought about that all my life since then. Every time I pass by there, I think about that.
Right? Are you ready to go back there today? See if the walking cane
Sure.
is there?
Sure, there is absolutely nothing there now.
Yeah.
The house was beautiful. But Mr. Jones, he raised a large family in that house. It was his wife died in 1889, so she didn't get to enjoy the house very long. But his children lived there, and their descendants. And then he had a daughter that was a school teacher, and when she retired, I think she moved back there. And then some family members inherited it, and they started working on it in the late 1950s, early 1960s. And then for some reason, they stopped working on it. And when I was a kid, it was vacant. And I remember passing by there on the school bus, coming to school up here in Woodland. And the school bus, I remember breaking down there one time. That was a little strange, but anyway, one time my parents had to go out of town for some reason, and they left me in the care of one of my older brothers who had a 1962 Ford Falcon. And he told me that he had to take the Falcon around the block to see if to make sure the battery was built up. So I got in there with him, and what did he do? He drove all the way out that highway to the old Jones house, and this was after dark too. And he pulled up in the driveway, and I was just saying, don't do this, let's go home. And as soon as he pulled up in that driveway, he switched the engine off, and we heard something. And he tried to crank the car up, and it wouldn't crank. And I remember how he almost panicked. And so he wound up scaring himself more than he did me. But we got cranked up and left, and that was my only recollection of anything really scary, was that and the walking stick. But I've heard other people talk about, my daddy knew somebody who rented the place briefly while he worked in Thomaston, I think. He knew some family members, and they let him stay there, and he heard noises during the night, and he said the place was haunted. And my own grandmother even said that when she was a little girl, I remember passing by there, and she would point to that house, and she'd say, ever since I was a little girl, they said that place was haunted. Now, there may be some other people who live in the area around here that have stories about it that might can tell you something a little bit more about what the experiences were that led it to be known as the haunted house, but that's all I know about it.
Well, I guess the question would be, which one of these two individuals is haunting the house?
That's true. If it was known as a haunted house when my grandmother was a little girl, we're talking about 1907 to 1912. Mrs. Jones died there in 1889, so Could very well have been her. But a lot of other family members lived in the house later. And one of these daughters, we'll have to look in the history book to see, one of these daughters quoted or recited, I should say, recited poetry at the White House for President Grover Cleveland.
It's like the base to an obelisk, right?
That looks like it, yeah. I believe this was the last, that was the last child to live in the house. Was I believe her name was Annie Laurie Jones, I think. She's the one that was a retired school teacher.
And here's the wife of the builder, Amanda, wife of J.W. Jones, born April 22nd, 1852, died October 27th, 1889. As a wife devoted, as a mother affectionate, as a friend ever kind and true, in life she exhibited all the graces of a Christian. In death, her redeemed spirit returned to God who gave it. Over here is James William Jones, the builder, born February 23rd, 1847, died October 5th, 1916. Because I live, ye shall live also. This one has no marking on it. Leslie Blondell is what it looks like to me. Blondelle Jones, born, no birth date was ever engraved, died November 28, 1895. Rest till the day shall breathe and the shadows flee away. This is Lillian Lorena Burt, born 1913 and died 1914. James William Burt was born in 1911, he died in 1915. And Evelyn Rose Burt, born 1915, died 1917. Evelyn J. Kirby, born 1883 and died 1978. And Leonard H. Kirby, born 1887 and died 1958. So I guess we're getting to grandchildren here.
Probably, well, I don't know, 1883. No, that could be a daughter. I know the Kirbys, some of the Kirbys lived in Manchester, and some of the Allens were connected to this family also. And my grandmother and the Allens were very close friends. That couple right over there, John Thomas Martin and his wife Minnie Jones Martin. Minnie was a daughter to Mr. Jones over here, and I believe it was she and her son who were Martins. It was her son who worked on the house fixing it up for a time, and that's the set of folks that I think my daddy knew. But that was a long time ago.
All right, so we are on the side of the road now. Where did the house stand?
The house stood directly up there. It was not a very ideal location for a house, which is, it was very unusual because Mr. Jones built his house on the side of a steep hill. The house almost touched the ground on the back side. I believe that I was told that they actually had to dig out for the floor for the back part, the kitchen. But the front of the house was about 9 to 10 feet off the ground. There was access, they say at some point, you went under the front porch and there were stairs that went up to the front porch of the house, but most everybody that ever visited here went to the back door. And that was around on the side of the house, around this side. You had to go around this side to the back of the house. It was my understanding that the house had been continuously lived in from the time it was built up until the late 1950s, and then when I was a kid, it was vacant by then. And I remember passing by here on the school bus, and kudzu was just slowly taking over the house. And one day I remember passing by here, and I went home, and I remember telling my daddy, I said, I passed by the old ghost house up there, and somebody was taking down all of the gingerbread work. And not long after that, we heard that the family had come out here and discovered someone stole all the gingerbread work off of it. But I remember seeing a man and a woman up there with a ladder taking it all down. But the house was very noted for its scroll work on the porch. Of course, there's pictures of that in the history book. But the place was completely taken over by kudzu, and then at some point in the, I guess maybe 1980s, the house just burned down one night. Wow. And after it burned, kudzu took over the place.
So do you think that the people that stole the woodwork off the house were haunted afterwards?
I wouldn't want anything from up there.
Right.
I don't know. That's a possibility.
So the kudzu is, you can see the kudzu growing down here that Dan was talking about that took the house over. And today, you can't even tell that there was a house there, but of course there certainly remains a foundation and chimney that maybe one day we'll get permission to go look at.
And I remember what a beautiful grove of trees that was in front of this house. And I remember how sad it was after the house burned. The fire killed all of those trees, you know, the heat killed them, and they stood dead just until they finally fell. And for a long time, there was nothing. It was just clear all the way down here to the road with the kudzu patch. But these pines have grown up in the last 25, 30 years.
So the real question, Dan, the house is gone now. Are the ghosts still here?
I don't know. I'm not going to hang around to find out.
Just say if they're still here, just tap Dan on the shoulder, you know.
It's getting dark. We need to head back to Waverly Hall.
That's right. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed hearing the history of what was once probably the most haunted house of Talbot County. Is this Rough Edge?
This is the edge of Rough Edge.
So we're already in a haunted area anyway. Yeah. And amazing place here. The pictures of the house is absolutely incredible, and such a shame it's not here anymore. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next time. So do you think they're up there watching us right now, Dan?
What was that?
That was time to go.
This is becoming more frequent.
It is.
Oh.
Definitely time to go.
All right.